how could they do that ruthlessly, because they already were sort of in a gain type of a position, because
Well, hello, everybody. This is Empty Turtle. I'm here with Dr. David Jubb, and this is jubbtalk. And we got a good one for you folks. It's called Currency Held Hostage. Dr. Jubb, tell us why our currency is being held hostage, please.
Well, an interesting thing, just simple, of course, isn't it actual that you could see people being controlled outright, of course, right?
By their money?
Well, a background story need to be a bit, because this particular is actual to do with more an under appreciation of the value of currency itself,
Okay.
and the importance of currency itself.
All right, give it to us.
Yeah. Well, one thing is currency should have be tied to governance.
It should be tied to government?
Yeah, governance.
Oh, governance. Is our currency tied to governance?
Well, it should be, but it's not.
Oh, why
You
is
see,
that? Why is that?
because public opinion doesn't come to be public policy, because that would be Article 3, Article 4 court. You have to look into this. But we got to see what we can do to action-pack things just a bit, where this is a little... you see, you've got a really old story, which is really to do with control of the earth, and a group of people who actually looked at and saw how could they do that ruthlessly, because they already were sort of in a gain type of a position, because slavery, which none of us cared for, was what would go on. And a long time ago, Cloud told me that where the trails ended, and she gave me and told me where all the roads were, all across America, and who actually went to places, what was done in the cities, and how there were ceremonial sites, and the cities were all considered to be places where people came to have reverence for this sort of thing. But currency really gets held hostage because if you and I, we never decided to spend any money on Ukraine war, for instance, right? None of us was really engaged or involved where that was. And the whole thing was really a scam, just the same as any. Because what would be a reason why only one party glaringly pretty much has been responsible for war versus the other party hasn't, you see? Mm-hmm. So these are things a little bit that we could all put together just a bit. But if somebody was there and you can see that just passed by was what's COVID, incredible, and that kind of we don't really have transparency.
Absolutely, we don't have transparency, and it's ridiculous. Yes. We deserve it.
Okay. These ideas are from the most intelligent American and people, have given insight into, and across the world as well. But if you decide that at the public courthouse, for instance, it has two venues and governance has two venues, sort of thing. It's like that's a bit weird and wrong, because why? Because you've got two masters, and who can sort of be following two masters inside? You can't, you see. So those venues, one is from the land, and then the other is a commercial. And you and I, for our matters, it cannot be decided, through a commercial procedure, you see. So this is a problem, because that's fascism itself. But government really is formed to protect private property, and it's really yours and my credit and everyone's that actually was spent.
Real quick, did you just say our court system is fascist?
Well, when you combine, like we were just said, corporation, which is dead, and the fiction, how can you join the living with that? You can't. So you've got to make someone dead, and now you can join who's dead to the dead. And so that's what they do, because in a maximum law, you can only join like with like. For instance, if Philip or Robert or Mary or Jane came along and they said, we've got rabbits here and we're going to put them into the same category as a rock, the teacher's going to go, no, these things don't fit together, Johnny, right?
Yeah,
What's the difference
little Johnny.
between, and Sally too, what's the difference between something living and something dead? And then they kind of start to think about it, and then the teacher's going to say, well, you have the ability to be able to have an awareness over what you perceive, yes? And it says, yes. And then sort of a rock really can't do that, can it? It's like, no, it can't. It's sort of, yeah, okay, so, well, rabbits are living, and they should be joined with the living, and the dead with the dead. And so, for instance, like a reflection in the mirror, is that living? And people will say, no, it's not. I guess, okay, so, well, it is like you, though, isn't it? It's like, yes, it is. Well, yes, but it's not you, right? And it's like,
that's trickery.
Okay.
Mirrors, smoke and mirrors.
In the inside of our own logic, like, was our conversation just to begin the show a little, really was to do with how our listeners really appreciate marshalling and sequestering information a bit. So it makes it easier to be able to process, but it's got to be put more with things that you already got a bit of an insight about.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, that's what learning's about, right? There's a lot of people that go into a situation they don't know anything about, but they're there to learn and find out.
It's amazing because, of course, we start out by just saying, well, look, did anyone get asked to spend all the money that's been spent? And I'm not sure, 20, 30,000, I'm not sure. People could have been perished in Gaza, uncertain, over 400,000 perished. That's Ukrainians, and who's to know how many it is, in fact, Russian and things. So this is a tragedy because it cannot end in any way of other than what the beginnedness was, and must be something which is like a truth and conciliation. But you see, these are the things which you can see kind of wrongfully isn't existing, because you've got a condition which should be wise, that an intelligent person is always seen to be finding agreement and searching for agreement with their adversary, you see. And this is spiritual. So these are things which come along more in this golden age, because these are things which is just logical, and these are things which, as a tipping point kind of exists about it. But a criminal banking cartel of a one world order, as everyone knows, did the Treasonous Act in 1913, and those that were involved with this, and in 1933 as well. So these are sort of open sourceable things of forgery.
Let's let the listeners know exactly what that Treasonous Act was in 1913. What was it?
A treasonous act in history, and would be into a future, that something is not a proper procedure, is when you don't vet the decision that you make, and you don't ever get consensus to do it.
Now, what happened in 1913?
In 1913, on the 23rd of December, they didn't have a quorum to pass the massive land trust, money trust that was formed on the earth, and none of us would have agreed to it. And matter of fact, the opposition was put on a twin ship and just sunk. These are sort of things that's open
the
source.
The opposition to that incident that you're talking about,
1913.
They died in the Titanic.
December 23rd, they changed things so bad and so wrong, and it was the group that was C.B. Cower, criminal banking cartel of a one world order, that did this. And so in 1933, on March the 9th, also, you've got a soaring horse technique, which is illegal, unlawful. Nobody would ever care for that. But you see, if you put a piece of legislation forward and you don't give it the actual proper vetting time that it should, or you do a whole range of things that actually, you could read books and things a bit about this, but you see, a soaring horse, you just imagine, is wrong. Why? Because none of us were involved in the consensus, in the decision making, and so currency is being held hostage, you can see, and that's evident. But we're going to go on.
Soaring horse, is that what you said? Soaring horse?
Well, when you change the gate, that's something happens.
What you're saying reminds me of the one time, and I'm not picking on one side or the other, but it reminds me of the time where Pelosi said, in order to know what's in the healthcare law or whatever it was, we need to pass it to know what's in it. She said that to the American people. How stupid are we to allow that to happen which it did. They didn't read anything.
Well, when you look, Nancy Pelosi was the owner of Congress, and her name is written down as the private.
For a long time.
No. Whoever is the Speaker of the House is listed as the private owner of the stock market exchange of the House, being a private trading house. Now, please, if you're a congresswoman or man, you've been bought, because first it is that you cannot be making decisions that you're making a buck off. You see,
well, it was obvious.
Sorry, but that's absolutely outrageous and wrong. So these are things which is not a proper, vetting of anything. It's a real demonocracy, basically.
Is.
But a republic means, you're republican in debt. That's what that means. Revenue means the venue from the land, and revenue, you're bringing back the credit that was spent. That's ours, and you're bringing it back to we the people, which is the real zeroing out their account, and is the real new reset where things are. But you've got otherwise holding on to forgery, which has been going on, and pledging and manipulating everyone under negative inducted economy, which is absolutely stupid. It's a war and asymmetric warfare to control and just condemn everybody on the earth, and nobody would ever put that together if they were, you ask 6-year-olds, hey, come up with an idea, for us to actually have a currency. It would have an intrinsic value. They would come up with this just themselves, yes. It would say, oh, well, we're going to be equivalent to an hour of work or something. Okay, good. And will it have the same value in perpetuity? Yes. Kids are going to say, yeah, because we don't want this to suddenly Ralph come along and give it more value or less value and this sort of things. This is not for us, you see, because we
did have kids making our currency system or whatever. For one, the money, you wouldn't have presidents on the money. You'd have their pets instead of the presidents.
I think that it's sort of narcissistic, as you point out, to only love animals but not love us.
Talking about kids.
No, but I mean, yeah, that's right. But it's all kinds of things. But government really is formed to protect your private property. It's your private property to be able to have cash, and for things to function as cash, because if it doesn't, that's a treasonous act outright, because no one said somebody could just jump in there into bed with you and have something that they never gave and did any work whatsoever, but every day something is being siphoned off, and a third party is married to you. See, this is slavery. And we need to be able to look at what this is itself.
Would you say we're slaves? Our currency has enslaved us?
When you are talking about someone up the front there and they're talking about changing trade policies and pressurising currency exchange, yeah? That is all being done to create concessions and pressurising corporate war influence. No question about it, because you're going to have that done to you and everyone. It's like, yeah, this is like stupid. Okay, look, when you use leverage to control all the available value, right, which we're just talking about, your currency is held hostage. You're talking about it and you're looking at it and you're seeing it in the news, and how bad is that? Sorry, where's opinion coming from the public like this show is? Okay, so get it right, start to put things together a little bit more, but otherwise you've got currency held hostage, and we can get into this just a little bit more, but you've got laws that have been just, like the satellites that could just easily get knocked out, isn't it? And isn't that part of the plan of currency being held hostage? Because if cable is the only thing that's left and everything is backdoored to Israel directly and deliberately, you've just restricted everyone's capacity to be able to prevent any free movement and entrance and exit from the market, you see. It all really is only meeting a criminal banking cartel of a one world order sort of demand, and it's buy-buys, buy-buys. Buy-buy laws are real low down at your ankle level. It's like making sure you've got an ankle biter in the picture, because you control the ankle biter, you see, and you control everything and what have you on the chess board. All right, which was a game that came to India, but Indians were the first sort of to give it to everybody else. But you've got a maintaining of a conformity, right, which is a big lie.
Whoa. Explain.
Well, you can't question what's a sacred cow. When was the last time anybody talked about money mechanics in the UN?
I don't know if I ever
Well, they should, and because you and I would for sure, because we just do not like waking up and your dollar or something be 10% less or whatever because something would have happened whilst you slept.
Yep.
And then $10 out of every 100 was gone. But you don't like it that every time that you have $100 and that you had $100 bill, you would love it that it never cost a single thing to have any exchange whatsoever. But every time that you did that now today and it cost something, suddenly all of a sudden that $100 really isn't $100 whatsoever, and it never will be, and it continues on like that. It's like, please get over it. Stop charging people to drive on the road. You do not have a monopoly to do that. These are the federal highways. These are the highways of international law and order and things for progress and flow to be, and no one has a right to have that monopolised, you see, and monopolisation in insurance and monopolisation in regurgitation of the property and things that's like that. Personally, nobody will say this is not part of a degree of fascism that's just crept in, and 192 countries are fascist outright. And so don't you tell me that there's not degrees of fascism, and if all of them mostly are under a code.
Where's that
and
code
the
come
code is
from?
made from law, but not.
Where'd the code come from? France?
It comes from those completely under negative inductance, because it's quite said to you, listen, if I'm paying the piper, I'm running the show.
Wow.
I don't care about your laws. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
A banker on his deathbed did say that.
Unbelievable. Which banker was that? Which banker?
Why wouldn't any banker say that? You have a feeling that they're truthful? Yes, they are when they
Yes,
die. Sorry about
everybody
that, but
is.
they are. No, okay. Look,
Well, most
you're held
everybody.
responsible for your own loss where anything has existed at the moment. It's like give unto Caesar until what's Caesar's and give unto God what's God's. It's like
God don't
everything
need
was just be given up to Caesar in the past,
Yeah,
you
'cause
see.
God don't
So
need it.
it really only it comes from war, it is war, and it's nothing ever more but that. Law really is something else, which is really a proper relation with each other, and that's common law, where everyone is actually held responsible for our own loss, where something exists under a system that's just taken everything away from you. You see, you need to be compensated. Yeah.
I definitely need to be compensated.
And so if a card was frozen in your brain suddenly in a future and now, could you make a transfer?
I hope so.
No.
Yeah, why not?
If it worked and you could keep your account safe, maybe. But if a criminal banking cartel of a one world order is in there, certainly I was never able to keep my account safe, and it's just got money taken out of it without any claim. None. And so you don't think that could happen to anybody? Of course it is. Ransom. And it's just a great con job, a conformity.
Yeah.
No, there's a great unconformity. And guess what? That's a straw man argument.
Well, it's also a con.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind,
If you don't mind, I don't mind. We don't mind.
I've heard you say that. But look, nobody minded or getting lemminged. But we did, of course we do. But how come we don't know? Well, how come Pol Pot came along, you see, and how come he got protected and what have you? If an entire economy was behind something, and some days you got black swan.
I just don't understand how you get so many people like Pol Pot or whatever. He got so many people to go along with it to do all these killings. I mean, how do you get so many people to go along? I mean,
you see, they didn't. In
Hitler
fact, it
did it.
is. But an overall plan can be where that is, and it's just been set up. Like, for instance, the First and the Second World War had to be done so that a map could be organised so that a crime here could start to be, and it's illuministic that we will tell you, so you've got the truth about that. So we put it on the map, and it says the crime is going to happen here, and we named it that, the crime here, and we made a little bottleneck,
Are you
to the
telling me
ocean.
World War I was committed to commit a crime in the U.S.?
Every single war that's been fought has been a condition, political, and the reason for that only outright. And I'm sorry, but nothing moral is about it whatsoever, because none of us, when you go into history and look, none of us cared one crap to be engaged in bludgeoning and doing stupid things when the word and the pen finally did do something. And in history, you always saw that, this is the way we do things. We do things because you're not a grovel whore, you don't have a grovel whoring sort of, beast barrack in your head, because that's not a man. That's a Peter Pan. That's like an adolescent, not growing up, who fraternised and just full of hedonistic, a beast between your legs being ridden sort of thing, you see. So no, sorry, that's just word salad. Room, see, Ukraine is the crane you see in the picture. And see, this is like 700 AD, this story starts to come to be a bit more like slowly. But, when Francis Bacon comes along and actually writes the Bible, and puts it all together with a council, a group of people to help him with that.
Francis Bacon. Okay.
Queen Elizabeth's, one of Queen Elizabeth's illegitimate sons, and another one, both of them sort of were involved in Shakespeare, as everyone knows. But if you give, you take out the word room, well, you didn't even put in the word room. You see room. Yeah, room. Room was taken out of 4 texts when the Gutenberg press got put, and all the books got propagandized with the same story.
When did that happen?
Same story.
Oh, when the Bible and all that. What years were that?
Gutenberg, he comes along and he gets his press to go, and after that you get a lot of stupidity going on. I'm telling you, because there was a mass production of books at that point. But how did you get a book before that?
To church.
You didn't read a book because there wasn't hardly any books. So the books took a long time to write and put. And they were sort of treasures and things and sort of stuff.
Well, they could have used
somebody
back in those days.
Somebody was more oral, and they would actually speak these things to everybody. But so that, if you looked and saw, which I did a long time ago, that word room was missing, you see. And suddenly it gets put in 33 times. It's like suddenly, it's like, wow. No, you see, look, all the 5 religions are all part of the same story, and given inside there little bits of this to precognitively get you used to how to process information in the future when something happens. And so the last one that C.B. Cower made was really for the Muslims, and this was for all the Mohammedans. Because why? Well, because the truth must be given to them, because these are the people more being sacrificed in the story. Yes. And so luminism is, you've got to give people the truth, and it's got to be outright and importantly given, because now you can sit back and go, I don't have to have cortisol about it. Why? Because you did it to yourselves. Yes, you did. How bad is that? I mean, that's wrong. If you're not controlling yourself, should you be controlled from the outside? Absolutely. That's nature. I'm sorry. But if there's no regulation on your capacity or mind to be able to spend money and our currency and raise it and put it toward things, it's like, where's the mission statement? That's what I'm asking. Show me your mission statement. Now you can get paid. If you don't have a mission statement, why the hell could you get paid? You see, these are the things which should easily be straightened out, because you've got people who come together, like 26, and they form administrative councils, and they do have Article 3 and Article 4 court, or the King's Bench, where other Commonwealth countries are. But every single nation has the same thing, because we all are under a contract and under the Magna Carta. You can't go breaking up all the contractual things that's existed. Absolutely not. You see, that's something which is important. But there were 3 phases, you see, because it's the Semitic and the White Seed annihilation, by one group, Khazar's group, and it has 3 phases more. And gribbet was an old Yiddish word for plunder while you could, and now it's called ribbit instead. But it's a phase of reorganisation, and it's a phase which would set boundaries on a map, and you had to have the wars to get to do that. And so finally you've got the crime here, and that's where the crime's supposed to happen. You see, the crane carries a dirty bomb, and it so really took a little time for all of this to have been organised. It's slow but sure. You've got the phase of Britannica, which is the last phase, this second phase before this third phase, which is currently held hostage. But Britannica was a real phase just to guard the ocean, guard the whole idea from the ocean, you see. So you have the guards of Jerusalem sort of thing, because this state was set up to backdoor things more, and people were displaced, and the whole reason for everything was this, like what you're talking about. They said, and slow but sure this would sort of come to be, but it was a very deep deceit, from the Balfour Declaration and these things, which is all pretty much sort of open sourceable. But a criminal banking cartel of a one world order really has a plan behind the scene, and this is what's going on where your currency more is. But everything becomes deflated and inflated, and the dollar really becomes useless. As you could see, anything has been done in history the same. So that's the great conformity, isn't it? Yet, how do you get to this point? You see, it really was a phase, which is everything has been about, and 2 types of medium, which, like we just talked about in the show. You've got 2 systems. You've really got a satellite, and you've got cable, and you've got to see a bigger picture, which really is what's at stake more, which is really an old story. Honest to God, it's not a good plan. People should abandon that. That's stupid, because the world really could have changed, and we all could be moving more into a golden age ever more, because why wouldn't you want currency spent? Because why? Because it creates a golden age. That's right. And so do you want this in your own living age? Yes, you do. Most of us do.
I want a golden age, that's for sure.
And so, you've got who decided to spend all our currency on wars, and it is a glaring fact that the democrats were always in charge. And go back and have a look at it, but you've got a fact about that, you see.
It's funny, not only do the politicians, it's the same done with war. After it, right, time dilutes it, and they purposely forget about it because they want to start something else or do something else.
Oh,
so
well, yeah.
They use our short memory spans against us.
It was said that 1 in 10 million would not be able to nut this out. And so how good was that? You see, that's what they said. And that is in the papers and things. Look, honest, open sourceable. But look, if you're given 666, yes, you were.
Really?
And it was Bobby rushed it through from Chicago. That's right. Why did he want that? Well, track, tag, and ID, track, tag, and ID, track, tag, and ID. Why? Well, because Bobby Rush has got the most problem with that of any other ward in the whole nation. You see, as far as murder and this sort of a thing.
What is our 666?
The COVID bill.
Really?
You see, it was a soaring horse technique.
Wow.
Right? And so you've got a range of things. Never not. Don't tell me that has not been the case before. God help us, you see. It's going on, and it's a murder of another billion. And it's ongoing as a pattern of genocide that's been ongoing in the past as well. Very imperialistic sort of ambition of a fascist type of a condition going on. But it all happens from the legal, the kill box, you see. Yeah, which is really legal name fraud. That's not a real true name, but it's a bad idea and it's luministic to tell anybody that 666 is right, of course, because everybody knows that that would just be a mark that others took and held and said, and it would be just the internal control over a design that's passed, which really didn't help take control of anything, but just black swanned and caused the currency to be taken out and insolvent. And so, this is a credit that's owed everybody for the next 210 years. You cannot hold a nation in bondage for 210 years. No, you can't. That's under international law. And that finished in 1999.
All right,
okay?
So you're saying 666 is real and it's happening.
I just said that actually it's luministic to tell you what's being done and to you. And if you did decide that, okay, well, you decided that for yourself. And I said that it's done like that so someone won't have cortisol themselves. They actually can be smiling whilst you do this, you see. So how bad is that? And if it is said Lubavitchers all wanted to just get rid of the white seed, and is that what's going on where Ukraine is?
Wow. And with that, we're taking a break. We'll be back before you know it. All right, we're back from our break, and y'all didn't even know we're gone. Anyways, check this out. So we ended with what? 666 is real and it's happening. Dr. David Jubb, sir, please elaborate on the 666. Let us know what's going on.
Precognitive conditioning is like, for instance, like before the trade centers get dropped, you've got Hulk Hogan down in Florida and they're talking about everything and it's like this and it's in their language, you see. And slow but sure, then you get kind of a way to be able to process information, basically. So, for instance, if you're going to go on where you're murdering like billions, because you want to depopulate, and an ongoing pattern is that has been of genocide and imperialistic ambition, you see, and fascist. Nobody would say that's not in the text, which is written where people's mission is, why should those people get funded? That's wrong. They don't have a proper mission whatsoever. But all of it's done to everybody, like if you were in Cambodia or anywhere in the past under legal name fraud, same today as the same was yesterday, and that's the sacred cow. That's the conformity, which is stupid. You have to have a great unconformity, please. It's all that's a straw man argument, really. But if it's truly sort of a bad idea, of course, Luminous got to tell you, they'll put a brand on that, 666, right? Yeah, good. And so everybody was told that. And so then all of a sudden you see the bill, there it is, 666. And you and I, no internal control are taken away from us, sort of thing. And who did that? Well, it's what's going on that's being whispered in the ear from senior executive service in executive branch of governance, and these branches are all meant to be, separate and kept of their power so that some check and balance would exist. And you can imagine that those things were supposed to work but if you've got black frock, white wig ones and they run between all these floors and are double oath takers, you've got lots of problems sort of going on where that is. It should get cleaned up because you should really only have an oath to we the people.
Now, who are the people that don't care about putting lives in danger and people dying, and they don't care? They make these decisions, and what happens. They're above the law. What do we call these people that can do that?
Well, it's treason, because it's absolute treason that you would go against your fellow man. You would take their rights away. God help us. Mm-hmm. Our founding fathers absolutely did do what they could to have self-autonomy and a free enterprise, and that's absolute what comes to be in a golden age, you see. It's just that this is to have been expressed, and it sort of hasn't. But if everyone could have only expected to have conformed, you see.
What do we call these people?
Well, CB Cower is is a system, you see,
Okay.
of pledging. That's a system. That's
Okay.
not the pull of P. As a P pool, we the people, that as one of the people, who stands up and upholds our title, because right flows from title, right flows from title, and your tool of your tie is as a woo man. That's our species. Our species is a species of woo man. We're not kangaroos, you see, or deer, or something like that, or elk dog. But currency is cash, and cash is in the golden age, and especially consent, of course, has transparency, and otherwise everybody being compensated, from Holocausted COVID survivors, you see, because of the great conformity, which you don't have to have an unconformity to know that asteroids and all sorts of things have gone on in the past, basically. But if it could be expected that you only could have conformed and no claim ever was expressed. I mean, whoever saw any claim anyway, like even for what's contagion, which doesn't exist, and never could anybody show anything. How bad is that? But if nobody's got any questions about time clocks used like to date rocks and stuff like this, it's like 66 million years ago. What does that do to you?
Well, it gives you the wrong impression.
It gives you and everybody, it gets you put into a trance, right?
I'm in a trance right now.
Yeah, because like if somebody says, how many stars are in the universe?
A lot.
Yeah, you see, this is an example of a transderivational search for information, and sort of, because somebody's got to come up with what that is, but you can't, you see, because it's a question that somebody asked that 10 wise people could never answer, because it's such a stupid question, all right? But the very thing is honest that decentralization, see, swans, black swans, white swans, they don't need a parliament, and we haven't heard animals or anybody saying that they need a parliament. Or a Congress or a Senate.
No, but they can bypass all that stuff.
Decentralization is by smart contracting. This is what comes to be, because you've really only got vending, and if you can't vend, it's like what?
Who?
You see what I mean?
Who are the people that make these decisions? Is it the Illuminati? Who are these people?
Well, it's not the Nurse Association or any of these golfers associations and all sorts of associations that's under negative inductance. Why would you want to single anything out? Because everything has existed that's underneath what that is. Like I'm just saying, and what is that? It's you and I and our acceptance, because it's pre-authorized, it's pre-ordered. Yes, it is. To have Article 3 and Article 4 court, to have a King's bench. Okay. Yes. But since 1980, if you've got all the claims that have been shifted over to the left side of the court, and so there's not been private investigation, you see, this is the problem really. And should there be not an Equal Responsibility Act? Yes. Because if an Equal Responsibility Act is, then title is. Yes, it is. And right flows from title. You see, these things should all be sort of looked at. But in the past, it's just been a cost that's been too great to uphold, you see. It's not a scale that's proper. And it's a cost, a massive. And so to be cost reductive, and consumer based, it's really more financial reporting, direct, more verified, where cash is, you see, and no cost is for this, you see. And this is currency, how it should be, like water, to transport your goods and service and everything. And if central decisions was made at a single point, like what we're talking about, it's failure, it doesn't exist in this system, you see. No. Why? Well, because you've got quorum sensing. You've got layers of approval where something exists in the past, non-stop, and you've got a slowed down bureaucracy, and you've got people being frustrated because why? Because it's not customer-based. You see, See, the golden age is customer-based.
Well, check this out. If the 666 is real, if the Illuminati is real, then you know what? Maybe all conspiracy theories are real. Huh? Maybe.
Okay, so, well, first, a thought isn't real. It could be about reality, but it's not quite proper because first a map is being formed, of course, which that map isn't reality. In fact, it's sort of a thought itself. Mary is real. We could say, can you see the forest? And people say no. Can you see a tree? And people will say yes. Can you see Mary? People say yes. Can you see people? People say no. Well, because why? Well, because something is so pronouny, and it's like, excuse me, that pronouny does not have an entity. It is an entity, but it's masquerading as if it's got a central organised nervous system, which it does not.
I think we're in a time where a lot of people are pronouny.
So corpse,
pronouny.
Yeah, well, we have a corpse put above your head, and now under a communistic, plainted type of system, is you're only a tiff of an old plaint. I mean, why shouldn't the black frock, white wig ones just get run out? Because it's wrong. They have bastardized their system so bad, I'm telling you. And why should anybody be sitting before them and say, you're a Phyllis Nellis, you see? Because you don't have any certain heritage, or you are an Atlanticus. Why? Well, because it's certain that you'd be having to be, breaking the law to do anything, because or you're a civilita mortis, meaning we don't even know where we fit into a state, and that you and I, we're above this state itself. You see.
When you say Phyllis Nellis, it reminds me that used to be the Karen back then, Phyllis Nellis, and now it's Karen. And I feel sorry for people that are named Phyllis and Karen, because I've met Phyllis's and I've met Karen's, and they're very good people.
Yes, of course, Ken too. Karens and Kens.
Kens. I've never met a nice Ken. Just kidding.
But it's loyalty, really, to be responsive, like you're pointing out, and to have an ability to be able to adapt, and to see something that kind of you could feel as a phonological ambiguity. You'd want to correct it a little bit, like, it wouldn't be right that, like you said, we should have an experiment for 1 year because it's been wrong that everything that's malformed, meaning not formed right, shouldn't be female formed for the 1 year, or to be clitoralized instead of penalized, or to be white femaled if you separate it out instead of black maled. I mean, these are sorts of things which is phonological ambiguities, and these are things you could feel more empathically and straighten out and sort out these things a bit, because stop using language a bit like that. You know what I mean? Because what is faster than what is light, nobody should just say, oh, well, dark is God now and light is evil.
Oh, no.
Because you've got light between you instead of dark.
Here we go.
And when we've got dark between us, what's that? It's like we're all connected, you see. And everything, when the sun disappears, all slips into the togetherness more,
Were you saying that the COVID vaccine being injected into us is the 666 being injected into us?
A condition which relates to your own survival and decisions that you make as a group that apparently we did but didn't, because we just pointed out that it was a soaring horse technique that did that, and we pointed out 2 other times in history where soaring horses went on. So are you going to say that soaring horse hasn't gone on? It's like, please, no.
Soaring horse, when you're on it,
going on.
It raises up and you're on it.
I'm talking about when you don't care that we have consensus building decision making, which we should. You only have Robert's Rules of Order, which is stupid. No, you have to vet things, honest, yeah. And now you're into more science, okay? Because why? Well, because that's what we approve of. That's how we care. We care because we would care to select things instead of elect things, okay? Because when you elect things, what's that mean? It means you're a subject only. You're a subject. Now, how can you be a subject? You're not a subject.
Right?
We just said that's
us.
a fiction if
they
to
were
be
selected
a subject
for us to elect.
But
and
if
that's not good.
You've got a stifled innovation under centralisation, which you don't have under decentralisation, you've got great innovation, which can be, of course, but otherwise you've got slow-mo, and you've got slow wit, and you've got no wit, and you've got the hands of a few, which is a promoted self to absolute incompetence whatsoever, you see, because it's not basic that cash is quickly a decision made and making thing which it should be at the vending. You see, so because why should it not be cash? And don't tell me that you're going to charge for your transactions. No, that's wrong. Also, too, don't tell me you're going to charge for people being on the road. How stupid. Most people don't do that. And so why would anybody want to live in a nation or a city that wants to charge everyone to drive on the road?
And get this, soon we're not going to have roads. All the cars are going to be flying soon. We got flying taxis coming. We won't even have roads. We won't even need them.
I would say that if a long time ago a bloke like Stanley Meyer drove a car and used 22 gallons or whatever it was, litres or something, to go across the country with water injected, and then, he got killed 24 months later. Don't tell me that you reckon that all this is free for us to go, but it is if we get into a golden age.
It's funny because I've heard multiple stories of different people that have revolutionized the vehicle, the car, to where it's amazing what they've done with it, and then they go missing. So my car that runs on zero energy and doesn't need any filling and everything, it's dynamic. I'm not going to tell anybody about it.
Well, it's amazing because I'm giving my estate away to we the people whilst I'm living, and I've given my estate away to the state so we could pay its bills. It's honest that why should not somebody care for where things are to honest to God make things better? Because look, don't tell me that there's massive amounts of user fructing coming out of people's accounts, and don't tell me that people are not being traded as stock. Okay, because they are, all right. And so, look, personally, that is so immoral, so wrong. Grow up. Get real. Let's stop being Peter Pan. Let's be a man more.
Thank you.
And, a man, he cares about women. He cares about children. And he realizes that children is a category of subject which got a higher priority than the vast majority of all other subjects.
All right, so our money is being held hostage. You've done a great job of explaining that. Now, give us a solution.
Well, a solution really first is the arm, of course, and it's an alliance of law movement right across the earth, and everyone agrees with this. Why? Because we want international relation. Plus, we do not want any more board whores. You see, it's like, no, because you don't need that. You've got smart contract, good, and why should people not be able to visit their family and have freedom to do it? But you have an account and you're the real estate because you're what's 2 inches above the actual soil and you're the real estate. It's your BC, you own it, not someone else. The state of the state of the state. Wrong. Why? Because it's just used your BC number to get and pull money from behind the scene. How bad is that? That's wrong. So were you given any consideration for that? No, you were not. Okay, so how many crimes do you need? You only need one crime. You don't need a whole list and a bag full of crime or anything. You just need one crime, and that is a trespass against you and I, honest to God, and also to the legal name fraud and forgery, you see, because forgery is just entering into bits of what's going on, wrong pieces of paper. You see what I mean? That's forgery. So who could say that forgery has not occurred?
So many
you see? So look, it's cost us way too much to have a system that's messed up and is not giving you a real true ID. Why do you want to be having an ID as a truck drive whore? No matter what your profession is, you're a drive whore because that's your ID. It's like a drive whore for what? No, you're not a commercial drive whore.
For the dead corporations.
Well, you're not a commercial drive whore, but if you only have an ID that's lists you as in all caps, it's like, what the hell is this? This is not a proper ID. I'm sorry, but it's not. If you've got a real true name, it would be like just Jump David. It's just one word. It's a noun. It's not 2 words. It's to make a pronoun. It's a noun, and it's in lower case.
I'm thinking about using a one-word name like Madonna does. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Well, something is on a bond and something is actual that it can link you to the capacity that you have to be a secured party creditor where you could really help the Treasury like you should to pay their bills because they can only pay the bills, God help us, that you assess the tax. because there's a lot of money that went on where something is, and the system was set up that's old, would be that you would assess the tax, and you're the only one that can do that. And when you don't do that and somebody didn't, it's like, oh, wow, well, how can the treasurer do the books? He can't. And so this is just very, very wrong. Why should you not want to help the Treasury? Why should you not want to help the Inspector General, these people and anyone? Like, look, and nobody can say that these things are not important. That's very important.
Let's be serious, though. Do they need help? Come on.
They? Let's just go to they again.
Who's they?
No, where's they? Because you'll hear it, yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, so it's called a missing referential index.
I like it.
Yeah, it actually, like a missing referential index is, we don't know who I'm talking about.
That's a t-shirt.
And who is you? You.
Missing referential index.
Oh yeah, when you say they, it's like a cute way just to push it off over there somewhere. And who's the hell
almost
is
like
they?
slippery slope.
Well, it's straight away you're all still into. You're going to get a service. You're going to get a service.
That's what I'm expecting.
No, I'd stop expecting that. You see what I mean? The service you have, you should have a service, but it should be from we the people, all right? It's got to come from councils, administrative councils that are visiting, and are visiting, ministers of visitation. And you connect together and you look at government transgression.
That would be a great job, Minister of Visitation.
Well, they only last for 6 months under the law, but you'd have to be done by that. But you would get $150,000 for sitting for some 6 months or something if you would, and help us all, because people could come and hear. You would be able to hear things. You see, and these are the things which actually makes law. But it's luministic, like we were saying, for you to be told what's going on, because now, you didn't listen, okay. You see what I mean?
Well, because we're so distracted with things.
I think we need to take charge, actually, like, it's a different thing.
And quit blaming they?
Well, could I ask you, can a rabbit launch an action?
All the time.
No. Okay.
Why not?
Can a rock launch an action?
No.
Okay.
Rock.
Yeah. Can a tree launch an action?
No.
No, it can't. Can somebody who's just a subject only launch an action?
Yes.
No, you can't.
Why?
Because a man can launch an action, because a woman can launch an action, but a subject can't. No, a subject is like geography. Can geography launch an action?
No. Well, hold on. The ocean, Mother Nature, tides, that's action. No?
This is not launching an action.
Is that geography? Is water considered geography?
These are all uncaused. These are all, multiple caused.
Is water considered geography?
We're talking about you being the cause of your own self, right? And let's just start with that instead of like going far away to the sun and what's happening on Pluto. It's like, oh my God.
Are you saying I'm responsible for my own actions?
You and I, we're responsible for our own world where we are. Wow. And the world that you have is the world that crept into your head. It took about 10 minutes whilst you woke up.
How do I get the
when somebody was woke? But you see, you're the principle of the matter. You're the grand whore, you see. This is your credat. You see, your credat. You're the debat hold whore, and that's a credat to you. You see, when you're sitting as a visiting minister, you see. And all of us are. Why? Well, because whatever is a debt is a credit to us, because that's got something spent, and it was spent because it was, credit that came from you and I, you see? Yes?
Yes. And
so
you know what?
You and I, we have compensation for the next 210 years, and it costs less to give you to be part and owner of the bank and everyone versus one person like Philip or Mary or Jane or Ralph or Pasquale are the only ones who own the bank.
That's right.
You see, that's weird and wrong, and this is what happened in 1913.
Solution is to decentralize the money and have the
you
citizens...
have an arm which is in perpetual value.
And have the citizens
and have an intrinsic
collateral?
value.
Is that it?
No, you raise money because, like, you're voting and you vote, you see, for raising money. Somebody has a mission, and they put a mission forward and say, okay, well, we can raise money for this. And what is it? It's worth an asset that you have at the end of spending it. So what have you got? You've got asset-backed currency, and that's what you have anyway. So stick with that. And guess what? This is all that's needed. Okay, so you don't need middle people between you and anyone else. You just need a customer, don't you?
I don't need any
exactly. And this is a free enterprise because why? Because it's an exit and entrance into the market freely, just as if water is there to transport your goods, and that's it. That's all that's needed. Nothing else.
Now, when you're saying middle people, is that a new term for midget?
Nobody wants somebody in your life taxing you for nothing that they did, all right? Okay. And Daniel Boone said, look, this is going to be really bad if you go ahead and do things like that, you see. I think actually people could listen to others in history and see, God help us, people were spellbound after, Daniel Boone spoke.
That's right.
And they couldn't make decisions that day. They couldn't even know how to think about it. But they did mention some things in the press a bit, he said, but it was sort of like, how could that be? He said that our children would wake up on a shoreline and they'd be crying and no one would be able to hear them.
Really? He said that?
Well, how can a corporation hear your children cry?
Man.
How can a corporation hear you? Tell me right now. Can a corporation?
Because it's dead.
Thank you. But so stop having things dead above your head, and this is the actual venue of the court. You see, the court. You're the judge. You and I, your peers. There's no such thing as a judge being something else because it's got to be defined, and the definition of it is your peers.
How do we avoid anarchy in the streets?
Somebody could say first that anarchy is only you and I having not formed administrative councils, period. As simple as that, okay? Because it's a very big old nominalisation, isn't it? Mm. It's like, oh no, we've got this in a bucket, we're going to wheel it around, but it's not. It actually is a process, and I feel like when you begin the process, do you think that actually 60, 80, 100, 200, 300, many more happen? Yes, they do. Okay, so let's just chill. Because why? Because it's a process, and we would actually have to put things into bite-sized chunks, you know what I mean? Because that's what you love to do. You chunk things down to make it, right? And you take on big jobs. And that's why I guess women love you, because you're very decisive about things. You take big jobs on.
That's right. This is a big job.
You chunk things down.
This is a big job. Trying to understand what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's hard.
Well, I was surprised before we ever did these shows that I could never say anything that you didn't already agree with, you see. So I was thinking to myself, Jesus, I'm 2 years behind MT, because he sort of sometimes gets bored with me.
What are you talking about? It's generalization.
Because you already know it. You already know this stuff. It's like, you know what I mean? But giving people consideration is very important. And you don't want to have the Peter principle, which is to promote itself to utter incompetence, you see. Because who's deceitful, of course, is personal. And they didn't get insurance, which they should, and you should have a foreign insurance registration, plus you're supposed to have an anti-bribery, and that's supposed to hang on the wall behind you. Why? Well, because your office is not for rent. But if your office is for rent, and you had influence to get this office, I'm sorry, because that office was not open for everyone, which it's supposed to be. You see, when you hire people like they did in ACS and things like this in all history, like in New York, 900 people off the civil service list, and they're all African American, and you give them a task to do, and they have a role that's power beyond the police ever had, and they take your kids away, like what happened to me. You see, you know what? That happened to a lot of people in history. Why would they have the orphan trains all pulling into Chicago when they changed the name to Chicago?
All right.
You see what I mean?
Man.
So where do you start? I don't think you need to. Personally, you need to start by you and I, we're changing things around by realising that you and I are the ones in charge, and this is the chain of command where things are. It's not down at your ankle level, you see, at a corporate level.
Where's my big old mansion on the cliff, huh?
So it is that something is materialistic, slow but sure, we would not be as materialistic anymore, kind of.
Well,
Because, like, it is true that, like, a lot of people only want to hear others and they want to say, burn more rubber on the road. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, yeah. I'm going to be, you know what I mean? But it is like a lifehouse. You could imagine everyone, and where you can't see them.
really,
You can't see them. They're not eyesores on the cliff. Everybody looks at it and it's like ugly.
All right, so we got to wrap it up. I have some stuff I got to do. But, all right, so the solution, decentralization of money, have the money backed by the people of this country. That's where we need to go.
Well,
right?
forgiveness, where anyone is, and being spiritual, of course, is really you and I ever living more forever in eye awareness. And if we're possessed with abundance, of course, one's life doesn't really consist much of not watching out for oneself, obviously. Of course, anything that's unrighteous, of course, like you were saying just before, it really is to cleanse and forgive, and you really give faith. And if you didn't do that in confession, sort of course, like you were saying, it's a bit silly, it's a bit stupid, of course. Something is a benefit to us, benefit to you, and this is true, it's a mutual beneficialness. But if we remain loving and accepted to have anyone which owed us, well, then you should owe nothing, you see, because it really is, how can we remain objective if lovingness really isn't rather what the subject is, which is studied, yet you're the subject, which really is, yourself. And being tender-hearted more is forgiving malice wherever that is and putting that aside, because you really got to bear with each other and have grievance. And all should be given for its own sake. And the world should be together, yes, because these are my brothers, my sisters, all around the world. And so who could you say that you're not related to? It's like, please, somebody could say, definitely, I'm related to you.
We're all related to each other?
Well, good advice where anyone is really where wisdom is. And if apology could be, that's a fantastic thing, because somebody who's listening is really good, because care is of another's heart where repair is, you see. Otherwise, no doubt it is for any reservation really is in how fair someone is. But to forgive is really in being in eye awareness, and more simple it is for us to get a gaining in conciliation. And to have conciliation, you've got to have two parties, you see. And so to trust and to have honour and be more in faith is really, nobody's going to say, no man or woman's going to say that my claim, which I've just put here, is untrue.
Well,
and I want my property back. You see, that's it. Finished. A government is designed to give your private property back and to protect your property. That's it. No one has a right to administer my property. And I just would like to know if somebody is out there, where is that, you see, because that's something that is settled. Show me what this is, because I never saw that. I'd say no man or woman is going to say that my claim, what I've just said here, is untrue.
Give us something easy to do every day to help our lives. Real quick.
I would say, if we listen to these tapes and you listen in a bit of an order, you're going to hear about spontaneous creative intelligence coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? This is the most incredible principle that we have. It's our own spontaneous creative intelligence, you see.
My intelligence is spontaneous.
And so if we could really give where things are, not to gloss over anything, but visiting everything in what's a bit of a transgression where that's been, and you could visit this in a new mindset of discharging the charge. It's like that's what you could do. You could help us. And this could be a great unconformity, or no, it's not. It really would be for the time that's been passed, because there's been a great conformity, and that really isn't right. But the fact is there's been massive unconformities, of course, which, how could you have a conformity when there's lots of unconformity? You know what I mean? Like the boundary that exists, where you've got not much anything life below that, and you've got lots of life mixed up above it. And so, something happened, you see, and it's sort of drastic. But Haley was the bloke who first, for us in English, get comets and asteroids,
my goodness.
into science, really.
I hope that helps you people. Anyways, we got to go. And guess what? Give us the truth, right? Give us the truth. We can handle it. And as always, we're going to have to continue this one. We got a lot of subjects we got to continue and a lot of new ones coming up. Appreciate y'all listening. Please subscribe. And what's another good quickie? Smile.
So,
Smile.
gosh, yeah, have a happy face inside, which is not so discernible on the outside, but it's just sort of on the inside.
But guess what? It leads to an happy face on the outside, too.
And one could leave their ways behind, because who's serving the most has left their ways behind.
Ooh. We'll see you on the next one, folks. You just listen to Jub Talk. Take us out, Dr. Jub.